Hey people, what's up? You've made it to the last video of 2024. Congratulations. I've had a lot of requests recently to do kind of that liminal dreamcore style ambient, similar to artists like oneheart. I did a track like this last year, so I figured it was probably about time to do another one. The track that I'm making today is called Searching, and it just released on all of the streaming platforms. Link will be in the description below if you would like to stream it. And also, if you would like to download this project file with all of the instruments I'll be making, all of the samples, mixed, mastered, that will be on my Ko-Fi. Link is in the description below. It's an excellent way to support the channel, and I really appreciate it. So, without further ado, let's hop right in and make some liminal style ambient. So I feel like these liminal type of ambient tracks are pretty simple on the surface, but it's very dependent on the sounds that you pick or the sounds that you're designing to kind of evoke that nostalgic feel. The other thing that's very important is adding some sort of ambience. So imagine that, ambience in ambient music. So something like this, which is basically just some wind, will go a long way into making the listener feel like they're in a real place and it's not just this super modern, clean, computer produced music. So something like this is very important in this style of music. So I'm going to go ahead and start with a bass here. So I'm just going to draw in a MIDI clip here, just 4 bars, Control-Shift-M. And I want to just do a really simple bass line, and I just want a descending bass line, which just means it's going to go down the scale. So I'm going to set this to a bar. Let's start on the root note, which is A, down to the G, the F, and let's come to the D. Okay, so I want both of these to be a saw wave, so I'm going to drag oscillator 1 and 2 up to a saw wave. I'm going to slightly detune them too, so you get kind of that phasing effect. Amplitude envelope, I'm just going to have it fully sustained with just a little bit of release. I'm going to actually take one of these down an octave. So I'm going to hit -12 here on the semitones, which is an octave. I'm going to leave 1 up the octave. And then I'm going to come over here and change this from poly to mono. And let's add some glide. And then what we need to do to actually make the glide function is have these notes overlap a little bit. So I'm going to highlight all of these and just grab them and drag them out so they're hanging over each other like this. All right, let's grab a saturator. So let's change this from analog clip to bass shaper. Put it on soft clip. Okay, that sounds pretty good. And I'm just going to also grab a hybrid reverb and put that just on the end here. And let's make sure we EQ out all of the lower frequencies. And this just gives it a little bit more width, a little bit more dimension. Okay, so next I want to design a lead instrument. And most times when I was listening to artists like oneheart, it's a very simple sound, kind of like a sine wave, with not a whole lot of extra stuff going on except maybe like some delay and a lot of reverb. Okay, so for this sound, I'm going to leave 1 oscillator as a sine wave. I'm going to take the other one just slightly somewhere between a sine and a triangle. And let's make this more of a pluck envelope. Let's go ahead and assign that amplitude envelope to the filter 1 frequency. So next I'm going to come in here to LFO1. I'm going to take the rate down and the amount, maybe somewhere like this. And what I want to do is I'm going to map this LFO and the matrix to this detune amount. So this isn't going to affect like the global pitch, so it's not going to make it have that wobble. What it's going to do is it's actually going to kind of create this nice dissonance between these 2 oscillators. So this is without it, and when I put it on just 1. So I want to start with this phaser, and I feel like it's going to give it this nice kind of spacey effect. So I'm going to up the notches. And then let's maybe bring the center down a little bit. All right, next let's go ahead and add this delay. So I'm going to turn this down I don't want it to be super, super delayed. Let's turn both of these down. And let's dial in this filter so it's only really catching some of the higher frequencies. And for this reverb, I'm just going to switch it to the halls option here and the long synth hall. And I just have this blend all the way over to the left. Next, let's go ahead and create our pads that are going to kind of play in the background and give us even more of that atmosphere. Okay, so this pattern, let's go ahead and make these two not quite saw waves here. Let's turn on both of these. Let's bring the filter back. Make this more of a pad sound, so we're going to drag the attack up, sustain all the way up, add some release. So I went ahead and grabbed an erosion, which is a really nice way to add some extra noise to your sounds. And I like the wide noise setting. So it kind of helps give that little vintage vibe with some extra noise in here. And you can kind of change the color of the sound by dragging it up and down the frequency. You can also do that by creating more width on that. And the amount, of course, changes how loud really that sound is going to be. So what I want to do just to give this some movement is I also have this LFO loaded on here. So I'm going to map this LFO to the frequency. And I'm also going to map it to the width. So you can also add more options here. So if you click that hamburger, now you can map these many things pretty much to this one LFO. So let's map the amount as well. And let's make this, that's a little crazy. So we're just going to take the rate down. I'm also going to change this from sine to, let's say, stray, because we really want it to just kind of be a little bit random. And let's take the depth down as well, so it's not really going from top to bottom there. I'm also going to grab an auto pan too real quick. And I'm going to change the amount. So let's pull that up. Let's also change this so it's beat synced for the rate. And let's maybe do like quarter notes. And the phase, we're going to do all the way. It doesn't matter if you go this way or this way. Basically, I don't want to use it to actually pan. What this is going to do is affect the volume with the way that we're going to use it. So I'm going to change this to a triangle. And I'm going to map this LFO to this auto pan amount too. So what this will do is kind of give it just a little bit of movement. So if I have this all the way up, you'll hear that it's just kind of ducking the volume. So I really just want this to be a subtle effect that's kind of making it sound like it's almost cutting in and out a little bit. So again, let's hit the hamburger here and map. And I'm going to map this to the amount. And again, this is just going to be really, really slight. But we really just want it to kind of sound a little dirty, a little random, just more of a vintage style synth than just a really clean wavetable synth. So I also want to create one more pad that's going to kind of complement the melodic elements we have happening already. So let's do the A and the C there. Let's come to the G and the B here. We're going to go back up to the A and the C here. And then since we have that D in the bass, I want to reinforce that. So we're going to come down to the D and then go to the F, which is the third of that D chord. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a few effects here. Let's grab a saturator. I don't know why I'm all in caps here. I'm yelling at Ableton. Give me my saturator. All right, let's just do 1 dB of drive on it. And then let's also grab an EQ. Because really what I want to do to differentiate these two pads is basically have this one be the lower pad. This one's going to be the upper pad. So I really want to boost the highs on this one. And let's go ahead and grab a chorus as well, just to give it a little bit more width here. I'm going to take that down just a little bit. I think that sounds pretty good. And again, I'm going to grab this hybrid reverb that we've been using, copy it and paste it here. So if I click on this one, shift, click on this one, and I can come down here to the MIDI clip and we can see all of them together. And what's happening here is something called implied chords. So all of these by themselves are not really playing a whole lot, but what we're doing is we're kind of splitting this across all of the different voices. So instead of doing like some crazy complex chords maybe on one of the pads, we're basically splitting these chords across all of the instruments. And this can be a really cool way to make things not so busy or so cramped in your frequency spectrum. And we're still getting those chords. Next, I want to create a really simple counter melody to kind of play off of the main lead. And I found this grand piano pad. And I think it comes with Ableton. I'm not sure if it's Suite or a lower version. But if you just type in grand piano pad, this should come up. So what I want to do is just play in a really simple melody. Okay, so the sound is really pretty, but it's kind of harsh too. So we need to somehow soften the attack. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search here for KHS, and this is the kilohertz bundle. And I believe it's free. It comes with a bunch of just little tools to help with certain things. So there's a dynamics, a chorus, filter, flanger. But what I am looking for is the transient shaper. And this is just a really nice, simple transient shaper. And basically what you can do is you can either make the attack harder, which we don't want to do. We can also round it off or soften it, which is perfect for this because pianos can tend to be very transient heavy and just kind of harsh. So we can just pull this back. And it takes all that harshness away. So this is without it and with. Just really, really gives it the nice ambient, ethereal vibe. So I went ahead and grabbed a couple other effects as well. So the phaser, I pretty much just copied that over from the lead instrument. So those two are going to kind of mesh together. An EQ8, again, just to boost the highs a little bit. Compressor, just to catch some of those peaks again. Echo is probably doing the most here. So it's really just giving it this nice kind of dreamy quality. Versus and it's somewhat subtle. And then the reverb, again, that same Hall's long synth Hall option. So this is what I have arranged out so far. Basically everything that we just made. The piano is coming in toward the middle and end of the song. And another thing I added was I just went hiking and recorded myself like walking in the gravel. So I just have that really, really low in the background. The only thing I think missing here is kind of that nice vocal that you hear, this really atmospheric vocal that you hear in the background. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in. So let's come in here to Ableton's packs and voice box. And I actually used this in my last track too. So let's come in here to the samples, and I'm looking for samples that are in the key that I'm in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick a couple of these and put them in here. So I went ahead and pulled these vocals out. I actually have these two are the same. This one and this one are different. So that's the dry vocal. This one, I'm actually going to reverse it. It's exactly the same, except I'm going to hit R. And then we have this vocal. And this one. And what I like about them is they're all slightly different. They're all playing slightly different notes. They're all in the A minor scale. And I'm going to warp all of them and stretch them. So I won't show you each one, but we'll do it with this first one. So I'm going to hit warp. And I will just hit yes. And I'm going to come up here and you hold shift. You get this little triangle. And I'm going to pull this basically as far as it will go, which is to here. And it can sound really, really bad. Like if I leave this on beats, it doesn't sound quite right. So I like to change it to texture and take the grain size way up. And it still sounds a little stuttery and not quite right, but it's a little bit better when you're like really, really stretching these. But once we add some delay and some reverb on top of that, it's going to sound a lot less weird and stuttery. So let me go ahead and do that with the rest of these. So all of these vocals, another thing that I really like is that they're all not the same length. So some of them are starting at different points, some are ending at another point, and really you're getting this fluctuating kind of vocal ambience throughout the entire track. So this is how it sounds without any effects processing, like all dry. I just leveled them. But let's come on in here to the vocal group. So I just selected all of these and hit Control-G to group them into a vocal bus. And the effects I'm adding here, I have Valhalla Supermassive and EQ8, and I am really, really boosting those higher frequencies. I have a little bit of vibrato, which is giving it some pitch wobble. Auto pan, just to send it back and forth between the headphones. A little bit of glue compression to hold them all together. That same hybrid reverb. But you get this really, really beautiful vocal ambience that just sits in the back of the track. And I love this constantly fluctuating dissonance. And that is going to do it for the track. If you'd like to stream it, link is in the description below. If you'd like to download the project file, link is also in the description below. And just a really quick thank you to everyone who has supported my channel throughout the last year, either here or on Ko-Fi, leaving me nice messages. It is so much appreciated, and you're all wonderful. I hope you have a fantastic and safe new year, and I will play the final track for you, and I will see you in 2025. Take care.